Peter, if I told you in August that you'd be 2 days away from a Champions League final against PSG in a campaign where you knocked out Bayern Munich and knocked out Barcelona, what would you say?
What you been putting in this espresso? I mean, listen. We knew that this was the next step for us, right? After winning the Scudetto, I think the focus was we have to do better in Champions League, especially getting kicked out by Atletico the year prior. But to go through, especially a Barcelona, I mean, Bayern 1, Barcelona 2, it's not very easy to do.
How do you feel? How's the fan in you feel about going to a Champions League final? Because Champions League, it means something different.
Yeah. I mean, listen, to tell you the truth, I've had a lot going on recently, so I haven't been as focused or, as into the Gazzetta as I used to be. But, it's a good feeling. I think, it's one of these finals that it's kind of 50-50.
Yeah.
There's no, you say, oh, my God, if we beat them, it'll be a miracle. Similar to, I know we said it before, but Man City versus Inter.
Yeah.
We were just happy to be there. Let's play. There's no pressure. But at the same time, is there added pressure now because there's no for sure, favorite? And I think that also plays a part in how we approach the game, right? Obviously, we lost the Scudetto on the last day. That hurts. Coppa Italia, we didn't get to a final. We didn't win. Maybe hurts a little less, but we haven't been able to accomplish any of the objectives. So really, this game means a lot for the year, and determining if it's been a success or a failure.
I think not just for Inter, but also in general in the Champions League. In the last years, it's probably the most 50-50 final that I've seen. Even if I think about last year, I mean, we knew Real Madrid was going to beat Dortmund. The first half, it was close. No. I think still there's a lot of people who will put PSG as their favorites because individually, I think even you could agree, they're a better team individually. Mm-hmm. They've got game changers in almost everywhere. Their midfield is incredible. They've got a world-class goalkeeper, but then it's the front three that just shine. Kvara, Dembele, Due, Barcola. Individually, probably Inter doesn't have those players, and there's many players even within the Inter side that say the exact same thing. Mm-hmm. But how do you... For me, when you look back at Inter's Champions League campaign, it's going through those games against Bayern Munich, going through the game against Barcelona, that gives you the belief that they're going to go in as... In my mind, Inter are the favorites. I know for most people they're not, but when you beat those teams, especially in the manner that you beat those teams, it makes me believe that it's your time to win. Just like Napoli for the Scudetto, there were moments throughout the entire season that I could point back to and say, how did that go their way? Oh, it's meant to be. Billing scoring against Inter, who the guy did nothing before, the guy did nothing after. I can relate to Inter with the Acerbi. What was Acerbi doing in the 93rd minute there? Fratesi coming in off the bench. So do you feel that as an Inter? I know you have a little superstition, but do you feel like it's also meant to be for Inter?
I mean, listen, the way we got here, definitely, right? You say it was a miracle to be able to be for Acerbi to be in that position at that time, score the goal. I mean, and Sommer, let's not forget Sommer and what he had to do to make us even be participants of this final. So yeah, sure, you can say all you want. Hey, it feels like our year, everything went our way. Inter's going to win, but I would say that especially, I mean, compared to other sports, football is the cruelest. You could have everything go your way, and then all of a sudden, in the last second, a slight mistake can change your whole fortune. I mean, let's look at Liverpool. I forgot the year exactly, but they were ready to win the Premier League, and Steven Gerrard slips, and changed everything for Liverpool and Gerrard at that point to be able to win. So these moments in a game can really determine who's going to win. Inter are favorites. I'll answer to you. I mean, as I said, I think it's a real 50-50. I think, if you mentioned that PSG on the individual level are better,
they are.
Then technically they should be favorites.
They are, though, betting favorites. Okay. It's close, but they are betting favorites.
Okay. Yeah, and I would just say it's maybe 55-45, one way or the other.
Yeah. Fair enough. Are you scared about your momentum coming in? Because that's the biggest talking point that I've seen is people saying, oh, we went to the end of April, we lost the Coppa Italia semifinal, we lost the Scudetto on the last match day. How much do you read into that? How important do you think that that's going to be?
I don't think it makes any difference right now because I was reading something. This is the third time that Inter are able to put their starting 11 the way that Inzaghi wants.
Wait, really?
To have all the players ready to play. Okay? The other 2 times we didn't particularly do a great job. We lost to Milan 2-1, and then we tied Napoli 1-1. Okay. So for, everyone says the depth and Inter have the strongest squad, whatever. But if you're not able to start your starting 11, it does make a difference. So it's going to be nice to see everyone, available. These last games this month, I mean, Inzaghi, I'm sure he was still intentioned or was wanting to win the Scudetto, but he put his B squad these last couple of games, and they were able to win, which is good. But it's a whole nother thing. I think the Campionato, we saw it when Inter went on to beat Bayern Munich and beat Barcelona. They were still in a struggling time frame, and they were able to go through. So I don't think that there's really any influence. I think this team is mature enough as well to say, hey, it definitely leaves a sour taste in your mouth to lose the Scudetto on the last day, but this is our chance to win and to write history. That
was one thing I was going to say. We'll pop the probable 11s on the screen, but that's the great news. He took calculated risks, right? There was times where he pushed it and he tried to play a player, but then there was other times like with Pavard where he might have been able to play in certain games, but he said it's not worth the risk. And that seems to have been paid off because Lautaro's back, Thuram is back, Pavard is back. All the important guys are going to be there. And that was the only worry I had. My one reasoning to go for PSG would have been if Inter's missing key players. Yeah. For example, the speed of Dumfries, which I think is going to be crucial. The unpredictability of Marcus Thuram, Lautaro Martinez, who even when he's not scoring, he's helping the team. Also, the drop-off to one of Arnautovic or Taremi would be massive. A guy like Bastoni being there as well, the creative force that he brings. So that was my only worry going into this. And I think we're going to get a good final because PSG is full force and Inter is full force. Yep. What do you think the key is for Inter to beat this PSG side, which we have to give PSG a lot of credit? They've changed face over the last year or two. They went away from the superstar, the Neymar, Messi, Mbappe. It's much more of a squad. They're very different, and I want to give them their credit. They've got balance. Luis Enrique has done a phenomenal job giving this team a face. They almost didn't qualify for the knockout set for the league phase. They were in 26th, I think, going into the last day, and they've really turned things around. Obviously, adding Kvara for 70 million is a luxury that PSG have that Inter will never have. But what do you think the key is to beat this well-run PSG team?
Well, listen, I think you give all the credit to PSG and like you said, the build out of the squad. It's a balanced team. You don't have the superstars, but we've seen in football, you don't need the superstars to win. You need a well-run team, right? And a balanced team means a lot. Or else Real Madrid will be, they have in the past. they have won everything in past, but this year in particular, without balance, it's not easy. So I would say, we talk about Inter's midfield, right, being the best in the world. Ludo came on and said they're the best in the world.
PSG's is pretty damn close.
Yeah, no, I was about to say I think PSG is right there because I love Vitinha, João Neves, Fabian Ruiz. These are guys that they know how to play football and they know how to recruit the ball. Like they're just all over the place. But I do think for Inter, I think the key to the game is can we control the midfield? I think we're not going to have the ball a lot, right? Because we've done well on being able to counterattack, on being able to, absorb the pressure and then take our way. But, possession is a key game of Inzaghi's style of play. So I do think we'll that midfield is the most important thing, that we're not afraid to play the game. Even if we're sitting back and absorbing pressure, that when we then receive the ball, we're moving the ball, we're going forward. And we saw what we can do with Barcelona. I think PSG will be a little bit more prepared defensively and not risk as much, especially during a final. But we'll have our chances to, especially with Dumfries, Thuram, and Lautaro healthy, who said he feels 100%, which probably we haven't been able to see that this whole year. We can definitely hurt PSG. And I would also mention dealing with speed. I think Inter did a good job versus Barcelona for the most part. So we have a game plan on how to deal with these fast wingers. Donnarumma on crosses.
My God.
He looks, I'm not saying shaky because I think he's a top goalkeeper, and I would take him over Sommer.
You think he's slightly better?
Slightly better. Also, if we had to go to penalties, Donnarumma's scary.
Also in the finals, he's turned up.
Yeah,
With Italy, he's done it.
Clutch.
For me, in the high pressure moments,
goalkeeper.
Donnarumma has done amazing. That's not to take anything away from Sommer.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. Just slightly, Donnarumma's better.
But I do see if he makes mistakes, it's on crosses. So Di Marco, Dumfries, if we can get some good quality balls in the box, Bastoni even, we have to be ready to pounce and score on those mistakes.
I think the example is right to compare them to Barcelona in the sense that I see the game going the way it did last time, not as high scoring because I think PSG defensively, they don't risk as much. And if they go up a goal or if they go up 2 goals, they're okay to sit back. They're not as high flying. But I also, on the counter to that is they're not as good going forward as Barcelona is. You almost have to accept that Barcelona is going to score 2 goals on you.
Yeah.
Like you have to match them in that game. But I do think the way that Inter beat Barcelona will be the same way that Inter will beat PSG. Those runs in behind from the wing backs, the second balls, not always going direct because that's a beautiful thing with the Inter system is Thuram and Lautaro, they'll check in, and then it's the runs in behind that get you. Mm-hmm. I thought that would have been the key to beat Barcelona. It proved to be, and I don't know how PSG could stop that, even if they wanted to stop that. But I think the biggest thing is Barcelona was the youngest team in Champions League. PSG, I believe, is the second youngest team in the Champions League. Inter is the oldest team. And that experience, that little bit of being clever, of being smart, of making mistakes, of most of the group going to a final, losing the final, and how much you learn from losing the final. Because this Inter started when you lost to Manchester City. I think that there was a real talk in that group that said, guys, we are not as far away as maybe we believed we were. And that was a different Champions League. That was a Champions League where Manchester City and Real Madrid, they were runaways. It was very difficult to beat those sides. I think they look at this Champions League and say they're confident in themselves, saying we are the best team. We can win this. This is our time to go on and do it. And I think that little edge was the difference against Barcelona. And I think that little edge will be the difference of PSG. PSG and Barcelona, they're going to go on to win Champions Leagues. This group will probably win Champions Leagues in the future. But I really believe that this is the time for Inter. If you don't win now, I don't think this group is going to be together to go on even next season. Mkhitaryan has flirted with retiring. Who's going to come in? Maybe you'll keep some of the guys, but not this together. And I think there's an awareness within the side that it really is now. And that little bit of edge, that edge from Hakan, that edge from Lautaro, that edge from Bastoni, I think that'll be the difference.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say they'll win, but this is an opportunity to you're right there. And this is a team that, although, in certain positions, I think they still have another 4 or 5 years. We're not going to have that core anymore. So if there's ever a chance to win it, now is the time. Because in 4 or 5 years, it's going to be very different, and you have to be, lucky in a sense.
You do.
Or, so when you're in the final, you have to take your chance, especially the bitterness of losing Man City, losing this year's Scudetto. You need something for that. And I think even for players like Barella, right? You win the Scudetto, you won the Euros. This is another crowning moment for him. I think oftentimes, maybe because he plays for Inter, plays in Serie A, he's not talked about enough. And I think he's a phenomenal, two-way type player, in the modern game. And he looks tiny, right? When you think of who's going to be this imposing figure in the midfield, you don't picture Barella. So this would be a good opportunity for him. Lautaro too, who's been able to win a World Cup. Maybe not partly, not for
Copa
him,
America.
not for him.
Copa America,
maybe
scored
Copa
in the
America
final.
scored a lot of goals. Yeah, so that would be interesting. And we're right there. And I would just go back to like the 2010, right? The Inter team that won the treble. I would say that's the better team for sure, even mentality wise. But this team, the way they got to the final, it gives you that sensation that they'll be able to hoist the trophy.
Bastoni threw too. I would throw him in the mix because for me, Bastoni is the most complete center back in world football right now, and I think he's a guy that doesn't get the credit that he deserves. Even if you think about the way that he creates chances, it's ridiculous. He becomes a midfielder. He becomes a threat going forward, and that's what a modern center back is supposed to do. But he also has the grit and the old school Italian defensive ability where he wants to make a tackle. He's going to celebrate that. He understands Inter. He understands what it takes to get to that next level. Him and Hakan are the only two guys in the team that I see a big drop off when they're not there. I would put him, Hakan, and maybe Thuram.
Yeah,
those are the three keys for me that if they're on, this is going to be Inter's night. And I just think that it's also different than the last time that you guys went to the final because you had an easier path. That you played, was it Benfica and then Milan to get to the final? Yeah. I always believe, yes, it's annoying to get a harder path, but it gives you that, wow, we've done it. Hey, we went on, we beat the better teams. We've knocked out the guys who we were not favorites in. And sometimes when you have an easier path, it doesn't mean it's a good thing. I actually think when you can overcome that, it just gives you this confidence into the next round. How do you see Inzaghi approaching the game? Do you... You're smiling.
I'm smiling. Well, I don't want to interrupt you.
Go.
No, the first thing that came to my mind is this is the last game. There's no other games to play this year.
No calculations.
So he's not calculating a sub because of
yellow cards.
Yellow cards or minutes in the guy's leg. Like, you got to put everything out. So it's going to be fun seeing his substitutions because I forgot now, so I don't want to say it. But like one of the games, he waited a little longer than usual to make the subs and stuff. So, that's going to play an interesting part. I think, the subs are written in Inzaghi's playbook where Di Marco, he's not going to be able to play 90 minutes as that wing back position. So Carlos Augusto is going to have to come in. It's going to be interesting seeing if, Pavard can play the full night, if he's going to make the sub. And who does he put? Does he put Darmian or does he put Bisek? That's going to be
a game.
Yeah, but even if you're winning,
I will put Darmian. Bisek had a little bit too many mistakes lately. Let's not go there.
But that's another decision to be made. And then you have to keep Thuram Lautaro in for 120 minutes. Yeah. Okay. There's no way that you're making a substitution up top unless it's because of injury.
And even so, Thuram was dead the last time. He was limping, and he still kept him on.
And even Lautaro
as well. Yeah.
Till half he was playing.
It's just you don't have
we don't have anybody to come in that's going to give us that extra boost. We have Fratesi, we have Zielinski, so these are guys that can come into that midfield and recoup some energy for maybe Mkhitaryan. But like I said, unless he sees that they're not performing up to what they can do, and tired legs also influence the game, these substitutions are going to be made purely because of this game. So that's going to be enjoyable. I think he's going to be calculated in his approach. I don't think we're going to see a free-flowing Inter team. This is a final, so he needs to win. We've seen in the past where he won Benfica, he won 1-0 and stayed there. So I do think he's going to do that. Only thing is, this team is older compared to that 2 years ago when they made the final. So can they grit their teeth enough to be able to keep that lead? We've seen this year. We haven't. There've been a lot of goals. So we need that.
But not in Champions League. Not in Champions League.
Well, Barcelona.
But Barcelona again, for me, that's. But coming into that, you conceded 3 goals in what was it, 11 games?
Yeah,
10, 11 games, whatever it was.
We're still one of the better. Listen,
over 100 goals. Nobody's ever scored goals Barcelona has. So I can't take too much into that. Then you can see it against Bayer Leverkusen in a game that you really didn't try to play.
That's true.
Feyenoord is when you also conceded. I just see, while in Serie A, you'll throw leads away to Parma, you throw a 2-goal lead away, you'll throw leads away twice against Lazio. There's some different level of concentration in this competition that Inter has. Because I know a lot of people keep reading into that and keep looking in the last 10 minutes how many times Inter's. But I go back to the Champions League and something is just switched on. And maybe you say, oh, they should always be that way. But it's also human nature. Yeah. It's tough to always be switched on. But I think in Champions League, when it comes to that, they will be. And I give a lot of credit to Inzaghi. I think Inzaghi has the right mentality to win a final. He's done it a lot in other competitions, in the Coppa Italia, in the Super Cup. He's always been that coach that knows which strings to pull, understands in tournament play what he has to do. So I think that he also gives the team a different energy that they need. And I feel very confident of this. Speaking of Inzaghi, there's so many rumors about Saudi Arabia. For me, I thought they're all BS. Then I was talking to my dad yesterday, and my dad said, I think he'll go. He's like, why not make 60 million in 2 years? And made a counterpoint to what I said, because for me, Inzaghi has so much momentum. Why would you leave Inter? And then why would you leave club football at the highest levels? Because for the first time, everyone's talking about your name. And my dad said he's not a player. He could go for 2 years, like Guardiola took a rest, and he comes back, and there's always going to be a market for you. Yeah. That's my father's point. He said, go make 60 million. I don't think that he will be. Do you think that this could be his last game?
Yes.
Really?
Yep.
Win or lose?
Yep.
Wow, I'm surprised.
I think the offer is too good. What's going to really make the decision is his family. I think for a coach, especially, it's going to be the family that helps make this decision. I agree with your father. It's not the same thing as playing, right? Because as a coach, he can coach another 25 years if he wanted to, and he could still do it, whether he's 80 years old or 50. He'll as long as he can reason and he maintains his stress levels, he'll be okay.
That might be a problem for him.
Yeah. But he'll have the time to come back, and especially if he wins the Champions League, he'll leave on a high. People are gonna remember him of winning the Champions League and doing what he did with Inter. There'll always be suitors for him. So
you're starting to convince me.
He's not gonna have the issue. This Inter team, especially as we discussed, there's a lot of older guys within the team. If he wins the Champions League, like, what more can he do? Realistically, he won a Scudetto. He won the Champions League. For him, maybe he needs to aspire for something more.
Aspire for something more going to Saudi Arabia?
No, but it could be a right time for him to leave, and then in 2 years, he'll get the other job, or he can get a different job with some of the top teams in Europe where no one's saying to you, hey, we have no money. We got to buy everybody on a free, and, the best player, if there's a good enough offer,
but
he's gone.
He doesn't seem like that Conte type to me,
no,
right?
He's not.
For me, I almost could see him staying at Inter for long, like I know fans want him to be like a Sir Alex. That's what I hear from Inter fans all the time, because he's been very good at dealing with problems, selling your best player, selling Hakimi, Onan, or Lukaku, replacing them with free alternatives. And he has this famous quote of saying that everywhere I go, trophies arrive, revenues increase, and I'm able to deal with problems, something of that nature. So part of me thinks that he's so competitive that he wouldn't want to take 2 years and lose the momentum of finally the entire world talking about how good he is as a manager.
60 million a year is crazy.
60 million over 2 years, 30 million a year.
Okay, so but still,
so
in 2 years, it's absurd. So like that opportunity might not come back. And again, when the coaches, Pioli's gonna be back. Yeah. He's not going anywhere.
It's true.
Zinedine Zidane won 2 Champions League, right?
And everyone's begging.
And then he's never been, he hasn't coached anywhere else. He's waiting.
You're right.
And he'll still now, if he said, I'm available to coach, Juventus would be calling. Everybody would be calling him. Even if he hasn't been around for 10 years. Guardiola took the
you guys are convincing
year off.
me.
I'm just saying it's a very, very possible thing. Is it going to happen? I don't know. I think there's other factors that are also involved because lifestyle changes, right?
For 2 years, you could kind of accept that. I always say to myself, for a year, you could do whatever.
Yes.
So even if you went for a year and then change it, a year is not going to kill you.
No, for sure. But again, that's the only reason I can see it. And then he comes back, I'm telling you, every team, even in Europe, Real Madrid, they will be interested.
Because no one will really judge what he does in Saudi Arabia either.
No one cares. But nobody cares.
They won't even know.
It's not even an issue for him. For him, what's great about him, like I said, especially winning the Champions League, he wins and plays beautiful football. There's very few that do that. Even Conte, we nod our hat to him, but his team doesn't play great football.
He wins in Europe,
and you don't care. You don't
Not
care.
in Europe.
And in Europe, they don't. They don't win. But my point is, like, Conte does the same. Conte, all the players that play under Conte increase in value. He brings silverware. He's a top coach. Mm-hmm. Okay?
And you're right. The lasting memory of everyone will not be going to Saudi Arabia. It will be winning the Champions League trophy.
And if you lose, it might also be time for him to leave because maybe, management or whatever the conversation could be. The approach.
I know you won't want to answer this now because Champions League is the most important, but is there somebody that you would look at on the list to replace him?
Listen, I haven't even thought about it, so I don't want to think about it.
All right, so I'll think about it for you.
Go ahead.
Fabregas.
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
Fabregas, Vincenzo Italiano, who he just signed with Bologna, but I think Fabregas and Italiano, people will say, oh no, they want to stay at their clubs. They want to stay at their clubs because it's Roma who want them or Milan who want. Yeah. But if Inter, who could win a Champions League final, I think that they'll do everything in their power to get out of their contracts and to go to Inter.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard all the rumors. I think if I would have to make a choice, I do like Fabregas. And the reason why is because the guy in 2 years, look what he's been able to do with Como. Sure, they're not the usual, guys that come up from Serie B because they did spend some money this year. But the style of play, his approach to the game, I think his mentality. Yeah. And he speaks perfect Italian. I know it's easy from Spanish to Italian, but you can see he's invested in Italy, right? And he's investing in his craft. I know he's a big, big admirer of Inzaghi, and the style of play is very similar.
He said he plays the best football in Italy.
So, that's an important part where, Fabregas can come here. He's, got a name, obviously, so it helps with the fans in a certain extent. And even on the field, he's practical. And he might even offer something more because he's a little more flexible than Inzaghi, because he's able to use the fast winger and he's able to use the number 10 when Nico Pass. Look what he's been able to do. So, definitely.
Would he be the guy? He's your first choice over Vincenzo Italiano?
Right now, yes. I would say he would be the first choice. Italiano, I think, would be another great coach, but I just think he's too one-dimensional at times. So maybe I'm just speaking out, and like I said, because of Como's rise and stuff like that. But Italiano is definitely a good.
There's something about Fabregas that feels very right, and this is coming from somebody that I always think let him develop, let him have time, but when the train passes, like an Inter, for example, I don't think that you could ever say no. And even the way that he's tried to get Como to elevate, and there was a great story of him talking to, I believe it was Capello, right before he got promoted, when he did get promoted from Serie B to Serie A, where Capello said, okay, Fabregas, it was beautiful what you did in Serie B, but this is the big leagues now. Now you need to learn how to defend. You can't just keep attacking. And he said, that's the moment where I knew that I was on the right path, that I had to actually double down on what I believed in. And to get Como to be in 10th place is an incredible achievement. It doesn't always mean that when you're a great player, it means you're going to be a great coach. But he's got the tactical side. He's got the player side. He's modern and speaks the languages. He understands pressure environments. All of these things would tell me that he'd be a perfect coach for you.
He's been coached by Wenger, Conte. Who else? I'm blanking on the name, but some top Ancelotti maybe. So he's been coached by
Guardiola,
obviously. So he's been able to take some notes maybe from all these guys. So
100%.
I just think that the coach is very important, and I would be happy for Inzaghi to stay. I just know that there is this realistic potential opportunity for him, and he might take it because he would have reached the top by winning a championship.
Marotta's been very good at choosing coaches throughout his entire career. Yeah. He chose Conte at Juventus when he was just coming up from Siena, that everybody thought was a big risk. Right? Everybody knew him as a player, but they said, oh, come on, now Juventus, what do you do? Then when Conte left, there was fans rioting in the streets, literally standing in front of their bus, saying, we don't want Allegri. Allegri took them to 2 Champions League finals. He built on top of the Conte project, brought in Conte at Inter. We know what he did. He helped build up this team. Then again, Conte leaves out of nowhere. He brings in Inzaghi, who a lot of people questioned. Oh, can Inzaghi do this? Especially after the first season. But he's always chose the right coach for the right project. So I also have a lot of faith in Marotta, who's not necessarily has to go out and get, I got to get Jurgen Klopp. I got to get the big name. But he's willing to take a calculated risk and usually understands what's needed, what the time to bring in a certain coach is.
Yep.
But
no, listen, if there's anybody that you would trust, Marotta would be the guy. He's done it before. Let's not forget also Sampdoria getting 4th place.
I don't remember before. Was that Del Neri? Was Del Neri the coach then? No, Del Neri was the coach of Juventus in those years.
No. Yeah.
I can't remember.
Who was it now? I forgot. I'm blanking. But I know Cassano Pazzini.
Yeah.
That partnership led to Champions League. So, and they had a lot of good players besides those two. But he was part of that building that team, and I think a lot of credit goes to him, and I put my trust in him. Especially he's the president now. He's not just the CEO or thing. So he's on the same caliber of Moratti.
Last thing.
Mm-hmm.
You're not gonna want to do this.
I'm not doing it.
You're not. Come on.
I'm not doing it. What I gotta tell you the score?
It would be nice.
Nah.
No.
I'll say
I'll
it.
I'll
say it. Don't post it. And if it happens, then you can post it.
You want me to play? I'll start. I think Inter will win 2-1.
I'll take it.
You'll take it. You'll sign for it.
I'll sign.
All right, fair enough. Best of luck. We wish Inter good success, and hopefully an Italian team can win the Champions League. After 15 years, it's been too long for us to get to this point. And out of the last, because now it's been 3 times since we made the Champions League final since then, right? Juventus did it in 2015, 2017, and then 2021. Those are the last 3 times an Italian team. All 3 of those times, I thought it was an uphill. It was like climbing Mount Everest. Juventus was never going to beat the Barcelona. Juventus to beat the Real Madrid with Cristiano Ronaldo, Messi, and then even Inter to beat that Manchester City. They always felt insurmountable for me. I had hope. I wanted an Italian team to win. But realistically, in my bone, I said, no, they're not going to win. This is the first time I could sit here since 2010 where I thought Inter would beat Bayern Munich for the same reasons they beat Barcelona. This is the first time I'm sitting here, and I feel really confident that Inter will win, and that's a lot of credit. Whether they do or they don't, it's still a lot of credit for Inter for where they've gotten.
Yep, I agree. I think,
all right.
Yeah, it's just I can't really say much more than that.
Where are you gonna watch the game?
I don't know. I have to pick a place. Studio's closed.
The last time you watched it while you were having a baby, right? And it was good luck.
Yes. Well, I had the baby that day.
When you had the baby.
I'll be with her for sure.
Okay.
She's my good luck charm.
And the name?
The name of the baby? Victoria.
Hey,
Victoria.
You see? Conte named his baby Vittoria too, right?
You see?
Because he's obsessed with winning.
Great minds think alike.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, and let us know who you predict is going to win. Will it be Inter or will it be PSG? Thanks, Pete.
Thank you.